You are listening to the EdTech Takeout from Grantwood AEA, an educational service agency that supports school districts in eastern Iowa with a focus on equity, excellence, and efficiency in education for all children.
Welcome to episode 35 of the EdTech Takeout, the podcast that serves up technology tips for teachers. My name's Jonathan Wiley, and here, as always...
Really?
Is Mindy Carney.
Because you can't get rid of me. Here, as always.
Well, it's like a constant.
Right.
It's a good thing.
Yeah.
Consistency.
Yeah. Right. So.
How you doing, Mindy?
I'm good. It's almost Thanksgiving.
It is almost Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Yeah. November 20th as we record.
Yes. So we thought it would be fun this episode to do So We're Thankful For, and name some of those people out there that are inspirational to us or that we are thankful for in our profession.
Yeah, we've talked in the past about, the importance of a professional learning network and how it's good to be connected to other people. And a lot of the people I think that influence us or people that, shape our ideas and thinking are quite often people we've never met.
Right.
And as we go through some of the ones on this list, maybe we can talk about the people we've never met that really do influence our thinking. But we got a list of people here we thought we'd bat back and forward on and just talk about some of the ways that we think they improve us as educators. And maybe they be people of interest to you as well.
Right. Yeah. Let's do it.
Well, I have a problem with the list.
Oh, geez. What's that?
Well, I feel like, I think we talked about this before, and it's like my list could be very long.
Yeah. Your list is long.
Well, my list is long, and I don't want to feel like I'm leaving people out because we could do like a 2 or 3 hour podcast if we really wanted to and just go through all the people that really influence us. And the problem I had was narrowing it down just to some.
I know. You kept adding people to your list. I felt like it was like a bridal party, You're like, oh, I just need to add one more friend. And I'm like, well, now I need to add another friend. Pretty soon we've got 15 bridesmaids.
Okay. It's a long-ish list. I get that. Yeah. I tried to go for like different, well, maybe this will become clear as we go along, but I tried to pick different people from different areas and different expertise and things like that. So.
Yeah. Well, do you want to start on your huge list?
Sure.
Okay.
Let's start.
Okay.
I'm going to start with a friend of the show. I'm just going to call him friend of the show, Dr. Wesley Fryer, and his partner in crime for their podcast, which is Jason Neiffer.
Okay.
They do a podcast called The EdTech Situation Room, which I am a big fan of, actually. And I like that just because it's different. I mean, a lot of the podcasts I listen to are technology podcasts, not necessarily like education podcasts.
Sure.
And their podcast kind of like crosses over the boundaries between like technology news and education news. And I've probably talked about them before in the podcast, but I think it's a really nice mix because so much of what happens in the tech world doesn't always directly influence what we do in education. Like, for example, like VR and AR did not start out as an education thing. And, you think about all those apps and things that you recommend. You think, this is just amazing technology. And I'm just wanting to find ways to use this more in the classroom.
Sure.
And so they look at that kind of thing a lot in terms of future trends or big picture things and how that can affect education. So, they can get a bit nerdy and geeky sometimes because I think Wesley and Jason are both kind of like technology directors in their schools as well. So they do a lot of things on like privacy and security, but it's a good listen. Yeah. It's like once every week or two they get together and it's always less than an hour and they have some great guests on there too.
Oh, good one.
So who's up for you, Mindy?
Looking at my list, I'm going to start with Craig Badura. And the reason I chose Craig is because I probably met Craig, a couple years ago and went to some of his digital citizenship stuff. And if you haven't looked up Craig Badura or his website, which is craigbadura.com, he has some really great ideas about digital citizenship and how to share it with students. He talks about how he works with his high school students, but I think his most powerful stuff is probably with elementary students. He has the digital citizenship toolkit. If you haven't heard of that, it is all these different like tangible items that he finds ways to relate to these more abstract ideas of how to interact online.
Yeah.
So probably one of the most popular ones is the tube of toothpaste, and talking to kids about how once you squeeze the toothpaste out, you can't put it back into the tube. And that social media is very much like that. So whatever you share online is really hard to take back, if not sometimes impossible. And just has lots of little items like that that I think kind of become anchors maybe in students' minds. And I think that's really powerful. And I've just really seen the benefits of his ideas as I was doing my Seesaw class. One of the aspects of the Seesaw class is you have to come up with a digital citizenship plan for your students, and that toolkit is used almost every single time. I mean, people really relate to it, and I think they really like the idea of having those items to share with kids and to keep pulling them out throughout the year to kind of re-examine some of those important aspects of an online presence.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. I have been to Craig's websites a couple of times, several times whenever I'm looking for digital citizenship stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
We had him here at iPad U, our summer iPad conference, didn't we? He was one of our feature speakers. And that was the first time I met him, at least face-to-face, in real life, as I say. And he had a lot of good things to say. He doesn't just do digital citizenship. I mean, his school has got iPads and all the different technologies on there too. So they do all kinds of great stuff. He's like a digital learning coach and does
for his district, things. Right? Yeah. So he works K through 12. So that's what's great about him too, is he has resources that, you know, are an overarching, you know, list of things. It's not just specific to a certain grade level or something like that. So.
And he has a good blog on his website as well.
And he does great stuff on Instagram and Snapchat and stuff like that. So.
Yep, very good. Good pick, Mindy.
I know.
Can't leave Craig off the list.
No, for sure not.
All right, so my next one on my list I'm going to go to is, I don't know if you know this person or not, but Jen Carey.
No.
Jennifer Carey. I just had to look up her official title on social media here. She is the Director of Special Projects at Ransom Everglades School in Florida.
Ooh, that's an interesting title.
That is an interesting title, isn't it?
Be the Director of Special Events.
Special events? Yeah. Special projects?
Special projects. It's special projects, yeah.
It sounds like a Stranger Things type of deal, doesn't it? You know, you work at the factory and you're Director of Special Projects, but I'm sure that's not what she does. She does more with education and technology and innovative teaching, and I follow her blog, and I usually see quite a lot of great stuff on there. I follow her on Twitter as well, but she does something that maybe I should do more on my blog. I don't know. And it's just, she'll find like an interesting article somewhere else and then like just repost it a bit, like some comment and narrative alongside it. So give you an example. She found one on the New York Times. It says, and she called this blog post, "Can the New York Times social media policy become a teaching tool?" And she basically linked to a New York Times article where New York Times said, we are redoing our social media guidelines for the newsroom in the light of all the media attention that has come to social media over fake news and other things that go out there in terms of, you know, what's true and not true. They want to try and be a little bit more authentic and make sure what they're saying online is true and correct and everything. So they had some really good social media guidelines. And as you read through them, you can't help but think from an educator's point of view that actually this would be really good for our staff or for our students to take a look at as well, because it's just common sense stuff about, you know, social media and how it should be used properly. And in a world that revolves around social media, things like that are really important. So she'll do things like that, and I often see those types of posts pop into my inbox. So shout out to Jen Carey. Her blog is Indiana Jen.
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah, that's cool.
I like that, yeah.
I don't know if she came from Indiana originally, but she used to be like a social studies, world history type teacher as well. Huh. So there's a lot of fun stuff.
Good. So as long as I'm going to follow up with another woman. Women power. I'm going to name Pernille Rip. And I saw Pernille Rip, it was iTech last year, right? Or was it 1-to-1 last year?
One of the two.
One of the two, yeah.
I think it was iTech.
And it was the first time I had listened to her speak. And first of all, let me begin by saying, if you ever listen to her speak, she's very zen. Like, her voice is very, don't you think?
Yeah,
like,
I think
it's
so.
very, like, melodic. You're just like, oh my gosh, just listening to her speak is truly powerful. She is the founder of the Global Read Aloud, which is enormous.
Yes.
I should have looked it up. I didn't, but I did see it on Twitter at some point in time. The amount of kids that are engaged in the Global Read Aloud is it hit like 1 million kids this year. Did you ever see that tweet?
No.
It was huge. And maybe 1 million is overstating, but it was like a huge amount of kids. But if you follow her blog, which is pernilsrip.com, she, I think, really has a strong voice about empowering students. And she's a literacy teacher of some sort. I'm not sure exactly what her title is, but the way she talks about putting the right book in the right kids' hands. And I don't know, she's kind of, when you listen to her speak, she's like the teacher that you want to be.
Yeah, I think she's a 4th grade teacher, I want to say.
Yeah, I think so too. Yep.
But I don't know. I mean, maybe we've talked about this in the past, maybe not on the podcast, but it always makes me think about, if we were ever going back into the classroom, how much you would do things differently.
Yeah, right.
And you look at things that she's doing and you think, wow, I wasn't
terrible.
I was an awful teacher. No, it's like, I should have done much more like this. And yeah. So her blog is full of that, and it's not meant to make you feel bad, I don't think, but it's inspiring.
Yeah, and I think she's very honest about who she was as a teacher, and then she kind of had this shift in what was happening in her classroom, and I think just being really honest about who you were and where you were at and the road that you traveled is also really strong too with her. So yeah, it's just reading her stuff is really amazing, and I definitely suggest you check her out.
Cool. I like it.
Cool.
All right, moving on. I think this podcast would be remiss if we did not talk about Richard Byrne at some point. Have you ever met Richard? I have not met Richard. I haven't really met him, but I did actually end up in a workshop he did up at Central Rivers AEA at one point. Oh, okay. It was about 3-4 years ago. Yeah. I went to, and he's definitely a guy who's full of resources. Yeah. I don't know how he does it, but he blogs at least once a day. At least once a day. Sometimes 2 or 3 times a day. And where he gets all this stuff, or has the time to do all this stuff, as well as all the speaking engagements and stuff he must do as well. I don't know. So he's works out of Maine. He does the Free Tech for Teachers blog. He does an iPad blog. I think he does an Android apps blog. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's just a super talented guy, and he has so many connections to the latest and greatest things coming out that probably if you go back and you cross-reference our tech nuggets with Richard Byrne's blog, then you'll probably find them all on there, and it's probably where we found them all at some point. And then you'll stop listening. Yes, and you just think, why doesn't Richard Byrne do a podcast? Yeah, right. Probably because he has no time. Yeah, right. So if you're looking for tech nuggets, sign up for his newsletter. Yeah, it's always very short. It's like, here's the tool, here's what you could use it for. And it's a wet your whistle kind of thing. It is, but that's what's good for just encouraging people to go out and explore new things and try new things. And a lot of the time it's just the discovery. People are always saying to me, how do you keep up with all this stuff? How do you find this stuff? And it's like, well, people like Richard Byrne is how I keep up with this stuff. Right. Yeah. All right, so I'm going to, my next one is someone a little bit closer to home, and it's Julie Freed. And you may remember she was on the podcast last school year, right? And came and talked about assistive technology. And I think the reason Julie's on my list is, because when I listen to Julie talk about assistive technology, like, it all makes sense to me. I think she's got a really good vision of what the big picture is for, equitable educational learning experiences for all students, and her ability to kind of problem solve and be like, oh, well, we could just pull in this tool here to make this work for this student, is really kind of awe-inspiring to me. And she's very passionate about what she does, and she has so many balls up in the air all the time. I wonder how she juggles all of it, but she just does an amazing job for Grant Wood and for our students here in the area. And I can't give her enough shout outs for all the work that she does. I could not agree more. I mean, you and I sit next to her, and we have so many great conversations, just like in the workplace that that could be podcast by themselves.
Right.
But I also think that one of Julie's strengths is that she sees the crossover between like gen ed and special ed, and she'll see a tool that you and I are playing with and trying out, and she'll go, I know a great way we could use that for AT.
Yeah.
And, you know, she shares things with us that we think we can use with, you know, the teachers and students we work with, and we'll share a couple of things with her sometimes.
Yeah, right. It's not equal.
I know it's not. She does share a lot more back, but I feel like she sees more potential in things than sometimes we won't think of a specific tool for AT purposes, and she always can find something like that in there. Yeah. So she is a great resource for the agency. I think she would be a very, very hard person to replace if she ever decided to go do something that earned her much more money that she probably deserves. But we should have her back on the podcast sometime.
Yeah, for sure.
Do another episode with Julie.
Yeah. Who you got next?
Well, I have Tony Vincent next.
Okay.
Who we met in real life at iTech. I've always kind of looked up to Tony as somebody who does a lot of great things with teachers in education. He has a blog at learninginhand.com.
He has a great Instagram account, right?
He has a great Instagram account too, yes. Right. And he's always sharing fantastic graphics and ideas and tips for teachers. Mm-hmm. He started out very kind of iPad focused, I think, or mobile device focused. But he has a very wide knowledge of things, as we found out at iTech when he was doing stuff with emojis and, you know, different review games and things like that. So he is a great person to follow. And I always learn something new from Tony. And he is such a nice guy as well, isn't he?
Yeah, he is.
In person?
Yeah, he really is.
I think if I was that nice all the time, I would be exhausted.
Yeah, it's because you're not very nice at heart.
Well,
it would take a lot more work for you.
I try really hard for the podcast, and then for the rest of the time,
it's like you're spent.
Yeah, that's it.
Nothing left.
Yeah,
it's black like my soul.
Every time I see Tony, he's always got a big smile on his face, and he's always got time for people to come up and talk to him and share ideas. And
he's so enthusiastic too, you know, like just excited to share stuff, I think. So
yeah, we've talked about this in the past. Like, you think about some of these people and they're like way up there, and you're like, don't want to even go and talk to them at the end, but he is absolutely, he will make time to talk to you and give you ideas or put things in a different context for you.
Sure. All right, so my next person on the list, who will I choose next? I'm going to choose Matt Miller, and Matt Miller is famous for Ditch That Textbook. And the reason that I chose Matt Miller is because I think one of his strengths is that he shares ways to use technology and integrate technology in classrooms that is definitely at a higher level. So I think there's still a lot of substitution with technology going on out there. And that's, I think, just one of the phases you have to go through when you start adding technology into your classroom. But I think the way he shares technology and the ideas that he has kind of push your thinking of how to use technology to make different learning experiences happen in the classroom than would happen if there was no technology at all. And he also has Ditch That worksheet, all kinds of Ditch That. He's all over that. And I think that as a teacher, that was one of the things that I was really trying to get rid of as in my classroom too, was just trying to get away from the worksheet experience. And some of his ideas are just, you know, kind of next level. And I think they're a really great place to start, help you to kind of start thinking about different ways to kind of just level up with the technology integration in your classroom. So I did just hear Matt Miller on Ryan and Brian's Check This Out podcast, and he said something that I'm so happy the way he said it, because it's been something that's kind of been floating around in my mind, but he kind of put it together perfectly. And he said something like, there's kind of a lull in educational technology right now, and that means it's time for us to really fine tune our practice. And I have been kind of thinking that too, like, there's nothing really new. I don't feel like there's, you know, anything out there that I really need to dig into, that I don't at least have some sort of surface level knowledge about. And was just kind of mulling that over in my head. And then when he said that, I'm like, yes, that's exactly the right attitude and what we need to have right now.
It's kind of profound, isn't it?
It is,
because I think you easily get sucked into that What's the next big thing? What's the next
shiny
app?
Yep.
What's the next website?
Right.
And yeah, maybe we should spend more time using the ones that we already know because they're good.
Yeah, right.
And
just make it better.
Just make it better.
Yeah, right.
Good message.
Thank you, Matt.
Yeah, thank you, Matt. I'm going to go to Sylvia Duckworth next. No reason why not, right?
Right.
Sylvia Duckworth came to my attention and probably your attention via her amazing
sketch notes.
I was going to say infographics, but that's not the right word.
No, it's not.
Sketch notes is the word, yes. Right. And she has a great way of making learning more visually appealing with those sketch notes. Right. And I think she helps me anyway. She helps me synthesize some complicated topics or themes or ideas. So often it will be like a blog post that she will take that someone else has written. It's kind of in-depth, highbrow, complex themes and topics, and she'll break it down into a really great sketch note. And she has a Flickr page that has all of the sketch notes she ever does. So even when she goes to a conference or something and she'll sketch note the keynote speaker, you can see those on her Flickr page. On her Flickr page, you can use any of those images that you want if you're doing like professional development with your staff and things like that. I would just encourage you to, make sure you give her credit for that kind of thing. Her name is almost always on these things, but don't like crop it out or anything because, she went to a lot of hard work and effort to do those. So it's good to give credit where credit's due. But, you can access those all on the Flickr page.
Right.
I never met her, but I reached out to her one time because when we first got the Theta camera.
Oh, yeah. She's really big into that. Right?
Yeah. Amber and I were playing with that when it first came out. And it was a couple of years ago. And we were like, all right, we're just getting started here. Who could we reach out to give us a quick fast track on this? And we sent her a few DMs on Twitter and she DM'd us back and gave us lots of great resources. She told us about sites like round.me.
Right.
And that was in beta at the time. And it was invite only. And she got us a beta invite for that website. I
didn't know that.
Yeah, before anybody could get in there. So she was really cool with helping us out, and she shared all her resources and slides and how that stuff worked. Yeah. And that helped Amber and I get started with doing those 360 pictures and videos with the Theta camera. So hats off to you, Sylvia Duckworth.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so I'm going to bring it back home again to Eric Ewald. And my first year here at Grant Wood, Eric was one of the principals that I got to work with in the Marion Independent School District. He has since then moved to Iowa City as a principal at Van Allen. But I think what I find so inspiring about Eric Ewald is, first of all, his social media presence about his school is right on. He's tweeting constantly about things that are going on at Van Allen, kind of sharing the things that his teachers are doing, things that his students are doing. And I think he just really promotes what's going on there. And I think that's awesome. He also recently has started a podcast called Dads on Deck and just kind of sharing his thoughts and ideas, as well as he's very active with the Kids Deserve It hashtag, which was started by Adam Welcome. And I think he really thinks about what kids need and what helps motivate them, and really is a principal, I think, that keeps that in mind, keeps focused on the students at all times. He also has a blog that you can follow, but I will definitely link him in our show notes because all of his information is there. But I will say also he's just a really good guy and always very positive and thoughtful, and he's just an all-around good guy.
Yeah, I agree. We went out to one of his schools once to do like a maker challenge, didn't we?
Yep.
And he was so welcoming and so enthusiastic, and he seems like a really hands-on principal that really cares about the kids. He's not one of these principals that like sits in his office all day and does paperwork and all that kind of stuff. He gets stuck in there working with the kids, helping the kids, encouraging the kids, and he's all about the kids, like you said.
Absolutely.
So, great pick. I always enjoy working with him when I get the chance.
Yeah, for sure.
Speaking of someone I like to work with whenever I get the chance, I'm going to give a shout out to Shaelynn Farnsworth, who is education consultant up at Central Rivers AEA, one of our neighboring AEAs. She kind of specializes in literacy and technology for the most part, but she has a fantastic blog as well that has some really insightful thinking that is really deep and makes you think critically about, education and what that looks like in your classroom. So she's a great person. If you ever get the chance to talk to her, she's another one that always has a smile on her face. But I don't know, the last one I'm going to give you an example here is she wrote a blog post called Boost Student Video Creations Up a Level with a Mentor Example. And she said that in some of the schools she's worked with, that she realizes that kids can now create videos in like under an hour, which is kind of a cool thing and testament to technology. But she says after a while, the students started to submit either crappy videos or they would do videos that were carbon copies of the example video that you would show them. Sure. It's like, so, hey, your video could look like this. And then everybody's video looks like this. Right. So she talks about creating, videos based on a mentor video example. And she talks about, one here, like the moonshot thinking video. Have you seen that one? The Google moonshot thinking, where you shoot for the stars and think. Right. Yep. And so she puts questions around that based on 4 components. Like what are the visual components here? What are the audio components? What's the structure? And what's the message? Yeah. And the kids' videos are, not necessarily related to that moonshot video, but they can definitely think about those 4 aspects of, what does a visually appealing video look like? What is the audio sound like in terms of music or voiceovers, and then the structure and the message. And those 4 components really help make you think deeper about your video. And she compares that back to, the way that you could think deeper about your writing, because she's has that literacy background on there. Nice. So, if you subscribe to Shaelynn's blog, you will find all kinds of great posts like that are designed to make you think deeper and more critically about, things your students are doing in the classroom. And like I said, most of them are revolve around literacy or technology, but she is definitely a good person to connect with.
All right, so I am going to talk about, who am I going to add? I'm going to take Cindy Moss, and you might know Cindy Moss as the STEM boss. She's with Discovery Learning. We saw her, a month ago?
Yeah, it was about a month ago.
Yeah, she was at Liberty High School. They invited us to come in and listen about some of the Discovery Learning resources and some of the new kind of, programs that they have, right? I mean, isn't that was it a program? I don't know.
Yeah, my gosh, that time went so fast.
She is super fast talker.
Yeah.
So she slams everything into 2.5 hours. But I think what is really inspirational about her is, first of all, the work that she has done. She supports a lot of students in their ideas of making, first of all, but then really does a great job of finding ways to integrate STEM learning into all areas of the classroom, and really has done great things for her community as far as grants for her school. And I mean, she was like Teacher of the Year and all of these really amazing things. But now all of her efforts are directed into the Discovery Learning, and there are some great resources there if you go and take a look. Lots of great videos about kids, great learning, fun. Wasn't she the one that shared that really funny video about the squirrel? Was that her? The 2 chipmunks that were fighting over nuts? Do you remember? And they did really cool music in the background.
Yes.
Yes. And so just kind of different fun videos, but still learning videos as well. So I would definitely take a look at Discovery Learning. Her Twitter feed itself has a lot of retweets, so maybe following her on Twitter isn't as beneficial as just me saying to you, go check out the Discovery Learning stuff. It's great learning materials there.
Yeah, and she's so enthusiastic and infectious as well that even if you're not sure about the whole STEM thing, that you'll walk out afterwards thinking, wow, this is awesome. All our kids should be doing this all the time, because she'll make all the kinds of connections to other curricular areas as well. And in terms of, this is not just teaching, STEM class or the STEAM class or something, and she'll show you how you can make all those connections with literacy and with math and with social studies and all those other subjects. That it's just, it's great stuff. Yeah, so discoveryeducation.com. Lots of free stuff. There is some paid stuff there as well, but definitely check out those free resources for teachers. All right, so I'm going to finish up with one more, and I'll keep it short and sweet because he kind of speaks for himself. Mr. Eric Curts, who is a Google master in so many different things. He is a great person to follow on Twitter. He has a fantastic blog at controlaltachieve.com. And if you ever do any Google training with teachers or anybody in a conference or whoever you're working with, even with students, you should definitely check out his resources page where he has all his slide decks and blog posts and everything relating to every Google tool that you can think of, whether it's Docs, Sheets, Forms, Chrome, Communities, Google Maps. He's even got a fantastic one on accommodations, a kind of an AT type slant on those ones. He's got some subject-based resources. It's if you're looking for anything Google related, after you speak to Mindy, speak to Eric Curts. Yeah, right. I can't even walk in his shadow for the love. He's a great person to follow. He is very knowledgeable and has got all the Google goodness that you need. Yeah. I just saw a blog post that he shared the other day of how to add Android Play apps or Google Play apps to your touchscreen Chromebook, and it was very step-by-step and very precise. It was a good one. And he also has this monthly one that he does a roundup of, what's new with Google in October. Oh. What's new with Google in November. Yeah. And he just rounds it all up in one blog post, and that's a hard thing to keep up with sometimes, all the changes that Google make. And so check those out too. Okay. All right. So my last shout out is for two people very close to my heart. One of them is Lynn Holverson, and the other one is Stephanie Roberts, who were teammates of mine in the past when I was still in the classroom. And the reason, and you guys probably don't know these two, but the reason that I think they're so important is that as a teacher, I think you have to have people. And these two were my people. So great educators that were willing to bounce ideas around, find ways to make things better. Even when we had crazy ideas, it was like, yep, let's do this. We can make this happen. And it's just always really important, I think, to have a sounding board when you're in the classroom. And so those two were my people and are still my people. We still occasionally bounce ideas off one another. So I just have to give those two a shout out. Thankful for both of them. Yeah, I think that's important because a lot of the people we talked about on this list are people we've not met in real life. But if you do have those people that you can see and speak and get instant feedback, people that know you and know the things that you are willing to do or try, then that is really important. So they're both very good folks. Yes. But we can't mention those two without mentioning our team as well. We have to mention our team. We have to mention our team. I really like our team. I'm thankful for being part of our team. One of the things I like about our team is that, I think we're all knowledgeable people in certain fields, but even within that, there are people that you can reliably go to for specific things. Like if I am looking for ideas or suggestions or things around makerspaces, I know to go straight to Amber. Right. If I'm looking for something I know that's going to help appeal to teacher librarians, I can go straight to Lynn. And everybody has their own specialties as well as a really rounded knowledge of information. And these guys are my first point of call if I ever want to know something. I'll go to you guys first, and if you guys don't know it, then, well, I know I really have to go outside the box. And then you have to go to Eric Curts. Then I have to go to Eric Curts. Yeah. Yeah, I think the important thing with our team is that, first of all, we have a lot of fun together. Our culture is, there's always, I think, kind of a hum in the air when we're all together. And secondly, that we all have a shared vision of what we think kids deserve and teachers deserve. And without that, I think our team wouldn't be as great as it is. So. Yeah. All right. And we have to be thankful for the people who listen to this podcast. We should be thankful. We're thankful for you, darn it. We wouldn't be here if it was not for you. Right. Whoever you are out there. Or we would still be doing it and just broadcasting into the ether. Yeah, right. To the upside down. Yeah. Yeah. Second Stranger Things reference. Yes, absolutely.
right, so on to my favorite part of the show, Tech Nuggets.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. I'll start.
Sounds good. Okay.
So Kelly Robertson is one of our autism consultants here at Grantwood AEA. And her and I were recently talking about using emojis with autism students and how using emojis can help them portray the emotion they want to elicit when they are writing something, but also helps them identify maybe how other people are feeling as well, and being able to stick an emoji with that emotion. And she came across, one of her favorite websites and resources is everydayspeech.com, which does have, it's kind of a freemium. I think there are some free things on that website, but it's mostly a paid service. However, one of the free resources on here is called Build-a-moji, and it allows you to choose an emotion, and then you build an emoji that matches that emotion. And then the website gives you, when you're all done completing your emoji, gives you a list of words that it thinks that your emoji might be portraying, and then you choose the one so that it matches up, and then it tells you whether or not you've kind of chose the emoji that shares the emotion that you're supposed to be portraying. That was kind of a hard thing to describe, but it's really a neat thing. I think it'd be great for younger students who are still trying to figure out those social, emotional kind of skills, but also for other students who just struggle with dealing with some of those emotions. And there's also a free build part of Build-a-moji, so you could create task cards that around like a situation, and then students would have to build an emoji to portray how you might feel in a social situation like that.
Emojis are awesome.
Yes, they are.
All right, so I'm also going to take one that came from one of our fellow AEA colleagues. This came from Carol Castles, who is our science and social studies consultant here at Grantwood AEA. She sent me a website called Talking Points, which is talkingpts.org. And it just does something which I think is kind of unique. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time talking about it, but when we think about apps like Remind or Seesaw, those homeschool communication type apps, this one kind of solves a little problem that some people might have in terms of ESL families and parents who may not, speak good English. And that is, when you send home a message via this service, it automatically translates it to the language that the parent signs up for. So that's just kind of I think it's a kind of a great use of technology and the power of technology today. And, it goes back to some of those, things I was talking about earlier, like what Wes Fryer and Jason talk about, some of those big picture things. Technology can do this. And it's like, wait, somebody should do that for education. And somebody did. So you send text messages home in English, they arrive in Spanish. The person replies in Spanish, and it comes back to you in English. So that just kind of blows my mind a little bit. It is a completely free service for teachers by themselves. If you want to do a school-wide system, then they will work out some kind of charge for your school on that one. But if you want to sign up as a teacher and just try it out and use it for your class for the whole year, it's free.
Seesaw does that too, right?
I had the suspicion that Seesaw did this. How many languages does Seesaw do?
Over 100, I think.
Really?
Yes, I think so.
Wow. This one only does 20 plus.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
But not everybody's a Seesaw user.
No, everybody is a Seesaw user.
Yeah,
correct.
no, it's good. Okay, so this one, there's not much I can say about it either, except that we have at Grantwood AEA started a new hashtag GWAEA Libs. It is for teacher librarians, but not just for teacher librarians, but the focus is for teacher librarians, so you can definitely check that one out. Lynn Kleinmeyer and Deanna Weber, I think, had big roles in creating this new hashtag for our librarians to kind of build a community here in the area, sharing lots of different resources. And I believe they used that hashtag the entire time they were just down in Arizona, right, for a big conference. So if you want to follow their learning, you can check out that hashtag and see some of their highlights.
So GWAEA
Libs. Libs. Yep.
Okay, good one.
Yep.
All right, so my second and last one here is something I saw recently on Twitter. It's our second shout out of the podcast for Tony Vincent.
Okay.
He did a fantastic infographic. This is version 4 of the infographic, so it's like the 4th update to this one. iPad is the teacher's pet. You may have seen it in previous years, but this one's been updated as of October. And it's just about, if you are using iPads in your classroom, just some ways to teach well with an iPad. So, for example, ways to put your iPad up on the big screen. Ways to manage your class with an iPad. And he uses things like Mindy's favorite, I can't even pronounce this app. Is it Schwazi?
Schwazi!
Yeah, the finger chooser, the group one, or like a random name picker, or like traffic light type. Hey, traffic lights. We need to talk about traffic lights before we go.
Oh, great.
And Class Dojo. Other ways you might want to manage your class, with those types of apps. Ways to be more interactive with your students. So those apps that have that two-way communication on them, things like quizzes and plickers and Remind and things like that. Ways to make instructional media. And as you scroll down way to the bottom of that one, probably my favorite part of this one is he did a survey of 374 teachers, and he basically asked them, what are your favorite apps for use in the classroom? And he put it all into a word cloud. And I think that's just an inspiring look at, what a kind of snapshot of what people are using if they are using iPads in their classroom. And do you know what the number 1 app was, Mindy?
Seesaw.
It was Seesaw, yeah. It was got twice as many votes as the second best one, which was Explain Everything, and Book Creator was in there too, and Google Classroom, and a lot of Google tools. But if you are curious, I will put a link to that in the show, and you can go check it out. It is a nice snapshot of learning opportunities with the iPad.
All right, can I do one more?
You absolutely can.
Okay, so
I'll just cut it out later.
Okay, sounds about right.
Yeah.
Last week, Gina and I used Flipgrid to create a compliments board for our GWAEA teachers. And the reason we did this is because we know how nice it is to get a shout out, or a warm fuzzy, as I kept calling it all week. So if you're a Grantwood AEA teacher, we would love to have you give someone else, an educator of some sort in your building, or an administrator, a shout out on our compliments board. If you're not one of our GWAEA users, you can definitely use this idea, and it's kind of a nice little culture builder, I think, and especially right around this time of year when we're sharing all the things that we're thankful for, it might be a nice way to kind of send out the teachers on Thanksgiving break, is to give just a short little compliments board on Flipgrid. So just a different way to use it.
Yeah, it fits in really well with the theme for the show, of being thankful for things. And it was people sharing other educators that they are thankful for, and
it's fun,
the great things they do. So we should keep this going all year round. I'm going to try.
I'm going to continue to send it out and see if I can get more people. Everything on Twitter is like fast and furious for the first day, and then after that it kind of slips in the cracks. So I'm going to keep sending it out.
Yeah, we should add it to the digital learning update every month as well, and
that'd be
people
fun.
See it on there too.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
All right. So before we go, Mindy, it looks like you have a couple of
I do.
shout-outs. Like we haven't been doing shout-outs all episode.
Know, right?
But
so these, however, are Snapchat shout-outs.
This is a first.
Yes. So Jason Everett and JP, I'm super sorry, I'm going to murder your last name, is Presevento. And heard from both of them through Snapchat about the podcast and how much they enjoy it. And they followed me because of, I mentioned my following me on Snapchat.
We talked about the Snapchat spike last week.
Yes,
last time we did this.
Yes. So you can follow me on Snapchat. It's mcarney10, and just get little snippets of the day. My day. Our day.
Great. Did they have anything specific to say?
Just that they think I'm the best of the two of us.
Right.
And that they really enjoy having you as my co-host. I mean, they like you, but they like me the best.
These are real people, are they?
Well, you're not on Snapchat, so.
No, I wouldn't know.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I have a shout out too that's somebody left it on Podbean, which is where we host our podcast, and that was Kim. She said she had the pleasure of meeting Tony Vincent in real life at the Georgia Educational Technology Conference, and she said he is amazing, which he is. Our show is amazing too. She loves it, and she says it is helping her get her through her DIY master bathroom remodel.
Good luck with that, Kim.
Yeah, whatever it takes, eh?
Yeah.
So I think that's all we have time for today. As always, we will have links to the show notes at dlgwaea.org/podcast. We will put as many social links as we can for all these people we talked about today and where you can go track them down and learn from them too. If you want to email us, you can email us podcast@gwaea.org. Or you can find us on social media. Mindy is at Team Carney.
I'm Carney10 at Snapchat.
Our team account is at DLGWAEA. And I am at Jonathan Wiley on Twitter. Until next time.
This has been the EdTech Takeout. We hope it hit the spot.
For more information on today's episode, please visit dlgwaea.org/podcast.